Welcome back to Sci-Fi Book Trek. Today we're doing our spoiler review on Revelation Space by Alastair Reynolds. So before we start properly, I need to draw attention to a point that was hinted at in a previous video about one of the character names. The character in question is the Ultra character, someone who I have been calling Volvoya. My colleague has been calling, well, multiple different pronunciations, but mostly settling on Vilova. I've been correcting him to my pronunciation. However, in the editing process, it's come to my attention that my pronunciation is almost certainly wrong as well. The character appears to be called Volyova, or at least that's how I would pronounce it phonetically. As the character does have Russian roots, it might still be wrong in that pronunciation. I know from personal knowledge that in northern countries like Finland, the letter Y is spoken as an oo sound, so in which case the character might be pronounced as Voluva. Point is, I have no earthly clue, but as I've repeatedly corrected him wrongly multiple times in this video, I thought I needed to point it out beforehand, if nothing else so that he doesn't smack me.
Right, we'll start off. Rough summary for people who,
Actually finished.
Well, yeah. People who've read it and just need a quick refresher. Right, it revolves around three characters. However, let's take this from Carrie's point of view. And Carrie.
I liked her character. I thought she was the best one. I'm
doing the first summary.
Okay.
So, first, Carrie is hired by a shadowy individual at gunpoint to join a crew. She joins a crew of traders who immediately knock her out and make her a slave when she's on board. And one of the main characters in that is Volvoya. And she's I would say the master to Carrie at that point. She's the slave master. She's the one who's trying to brainwash Carrie to be servant. But anyway, shenanigans happen on board. They go about because they're trying to look for a person called Sylvester. Volvoya and the rest of the crew want to get Sylvester
to kill the captain,
who's on another planet. What they don't know, Sylvester's on.
Great. Because I thought you said the captain was on the other planet.
No.
It's like...
Captain's dying of a sort of cyber virus sort of thing.
Space plague.
Right, so...
Space COVID.
Yeah, Carrie wants to kill Sylvester. That's why she's been hired by the shadowy person who turns out to be an alien, maybe human part, or maybe just full alien.
Well, that makes sense.
She's hired to kill the alien who lives in Sylvester. But don't worry, the alien who lives in Sylvester also took a part of him and is living in the ship, but in the weapons cache. And so when Carrie gets put into the weapons cache, because she's got a ghost sort of thing of the alien she's working for into the weapons cache, they start fighting over the control of the weapons. Well, that's just, what happens as they're going to the planet. Sylvester, on the other hand, he's leader, and then there's a revolt. Well, he's a leader archaeologist. So imagine Indiana Jones as a politician. There's a big political coup. He gets captured and put in prison for 10 years by
Girardo.
A fat man. You don't need to know his name. He's just, stereotypical business fat man. So eventually, after 10 years, he gets sort of pardoned, or sort of like released, to go and look at this major archaeological site they found by this dead civilization.
Why does he get pardoned? Because he's banging the fat man's daughter.
No, because he's trying to write a political book, which he's sort of doing a political assassination job on himself, which is writ by the fat man's daughter, who they then fall in love with, and they get married at the alien city they found.
Yes.
And then a bunch of peacocks kill everyone. But
also, there's a wedding gun.
Yes, there's a wedding gun that shoots them. Yeah. Then Sylvester and his wife, his new wife, his fifth wife, gets kidnapped by some of the people who are trying to start a political coup. At this point, the ship with other two characters comes in and says, "Give us Sylvester or we'll blow something up." And the people on the planet went, no, we don't really believe it. So, people on the ship blew up a small settlement, sort of.
That's as far as I got. I didn't even know about the aliens.
After that, they give up Sylvester. Sylvester comes aboard after some other stuff happens. And Sylvester says, "Look, I will let you put a copy of my dead father into me and take over me so I can heal the captain if you take me to this dead alien planetoid orbiting a neutron star. And they went, deal. They take him over there, and when they're there, they find the remains of Sylvester's former dead wife in the ship she tried to hijack and got her a coup and go back to Yellowstone. They find her remains and the ship. They use the ship to crash into the planetoid to break it open so Sylvester can go inside and find out what's in there. They go in there. Why this time, one of the aliens, not the alien working for Carrie, but the other alien, has took over the ship and has started killing people in strange and mysterious ways. Because the ship's not fully working after it's been partly affected by cybervirus decades earlier. But then he takes Sylvester, because the alien wants Sylvester down on the planet, like in the planetoid. So he takes Sylvester in there in like 2 little spacesuits. So they go down there, and then he starts killing the rest of the crew. So Sylvester gets there, he goes all the way down there, finds out the other suit he was with, who thought someone else wasn't, it's empty. Then, after a few days of travel, Sylvester finally gets down to the centre of this planet, like inside this planetoid, and finds a shimmering white doorway ring in space. Goes through it, gets sort of enlightened, he goes, oh, I think I know some things. He sees this red jewel and goes, no, I won't go near it. But then the alien, who's still in his head, takes over and forces him to open up this red jewel and go into it, where there's a series of experiments. But then Sylvester goes, no, I won't do this, and triggers a sort of bomb inside his eye. Kills everyone, also saves the human race. Meanwhile, you ain't heard the weird stuff yet. Meanwhile, Carrie and, what's her name? Volvoya. Carrie and Volvoya are trying to get away from the ship that's trying to blow them up now. Because they're about the only survivors, and Sylvester's wife. Basically, what happens is Sylvester's wife and Carrie are thrown into the neutron star and get ripped apart by gravity waves. Then Carrie wakes up and Sylvester's wife explains, don't worry, we're all fine here. And she's doing an archaeological dig with Sylvester, and then she goes, but you don't belong here, so go upstairs and click your heels 3 times and you'll be back in space. So she does that, and then she finds, what's her name? Volvoya again, who was in space in a spacesuit and waiting for the ship to just kill her. But instead the ship sends a shuttle for her. So she thinks, the captain must have taken over. So they get back to the shuttle, both of them rejoin, and then it ends. And believe me, I'm missing out tons. I'll let you speak first because I need a rest.
I could literally visualise Carrie being a Shadowrunner in that type of universe. She's an assassin that's essentially found herself having to do that job because 1, she's got military experience, and 2, she's got nothing else to lose.
Yeah.
Or at least until that point where you find out that, yep, her husband's actually here. I mean, that was I'm gonna stop saying interesting. That was
a nice point to have, to bring in the cherry of, you can get your husband back and he's the same age as you.
It was the whole aspect of her, because there'd been a mistake made with her and she'd been shipped off-world and sent somewhere else, and she's X amount of light years away from where she thinks her husband is.
20.
And she comes to the conclusion that even if she literally got on the next light hugger out of system and went back, there'd be 40 years difference between the two of them, and that
is if he hasn't moved on.
Yes.
If he hasn't, like, well, I thought you had died, so I
moved on and got on with my life. Yeah, exactly. For the time that I spent with her, I felt more connected to that character because of those circumstances, and because she's kind of doing an interesting job. Amoral, certainly. She's an assassin that has to hunt down people that have literally...
Well, they paid, but yes.
Yeah, but the people that have paid her are the people she's has to hunt down.
Yeah.
And it's almost like they have gotten so bored with their lives that they pay an assassin so that
they can try to escape it.
It's the ultimate. Yeah, the ultimate escape game. It's like, yes, I managed to evade this person. It's like, look how good I am. Except, don't pay this one because she will fucking murder you. She's very good at her job. She kind of reminded me a little bit of Motoko Kusanagi.
All right.
Or at least that's how I was visualizing her in my head. But yeah, I liked her, and I was more invested in her aspect of the story. Volvoya comes across very disconnected. For me, she comes across as like mad scientist.
Probably my favourite.
Yeah, but you like Dr. Hawksy.
Yeah.
The fact that the Ultras are disconnected from normal humanity in such a way, they almost seem like a little bit overseers, so I can kind of understand their approach, or at least Volvoya, I can kind of understand that she's not connected to the cultural norms or ethics.
She doesn't even seem connected to the Ultras. Because like when they go into the Ultra bar in Yellowstone, she's not exactly loving it.
No.
And like even doesn't really interact with any of her crew. She spends a lot of the time on the ship when everyone else is in hibernation.
Yeah, in reefer sleep.
Yeah.
And when
she seems disconnected not only from humanity, but by
also
the
from
pocket
her
of
own
humanity.
people.
Yeah.
Sylvester.
Yeah.
He came across to me as one of the least likeable characters, certainly in the start of it, but he grows on me later. And this was as I was starting to get into that mid part of the book, he starts to become a little bit more appealing.
Yeah.
For me, Sylvester, he came off originally to me as a spoiled rich kid.
I mean, it's spoiled rich kid, but he's at least doing things with his life. He's not just sitting on his laurels and just going to latest parties.
That I can't fault. He's not a playboy philanthropist. He has an interest in archaeology, and that's where he is. But it also came across that because of his position, it felt like he could order people around and just tell them, "No, do it, because I'm the one that pays your bills." You know what I mean? And that is initially what put me off about him. After the 10 years that he was in prison.
That's the thing. Initially, when he comes in and says, "Look, I want to go and see this visitor," and the guard's like, "Can order us around, and we would probably prefer you just order us around rather than this little game of you going, can you do this?" And it's like, the answer's yes. We'd rather you just go doing this. I think he does try to be nice at some points, but also you've got to, I don't know if you got to that point or not. At some point,
the wedding.
Well, no, at some point he was, I don't say infested, but he does have an alien living inside his brain.
Yeah, I hadn't got to that
right,
point.
Which maybe gave him his knowledge, but also his ambition to go into archaeology.
That makes sense.
See, I kind of like Sylvester as well. I especially liked Calvin, though, his father. Or, well, the beta version. Things we like about it, things we dislike about it.
Lots of different aspects that I do find genuinely interesting. Fascinating, yes. I still haven't dug out my thesaurus. The ideas of transhumanism, you've got the Ultras that are clearly biologically advanced humans. You've got the differences between the AIs, the alpha level AIs, the beta levels.
And gamma.
Don't know whether I got as far as the gammas. The idea that
you did, because when they go down on the planet of Yellowstone, when they're doing sort of like border control, they're talking to the crew, and Vol, she's not having it, she's just been insulting to it, and the thing goes, I'm not a gamma version, I'm a real person. We've decided to have real people because gammas just take too much shit.
In terms of the AI constructs, alphas are someone's brain that has been digitally mapped.
Yeah.
So it's as good as
they can still evolve, and they're like a digital human sort of thing.
Yeah, but it's as good as having a complete copy of someone's mind. it's as close to digital immortality as you can basically get.
Yeah, but they can also learn stuff and progress in like their personality wise. Betas are more fixed. It's more a snapshot of who they are, and then they can expostulate on new things. They can look, what would this person say about this? Yeah. And then you can explain the concept, and they can learn stuff, but personality wise they don't really grow.
Well, I likened it to, I mean, the AI stuff that they've got at the moment, the chat GPT, that would be the closest thing to a beta. Have you not seen some of the stuff that they've done with it?
Yes, but I would also say it's probably still gamma.
AI.
So you liked the AI parts, yeah?
Well, this is the thing. The AI parts were interesting. I quite enjoyed all the concepts. The idea of the light huggers. I like the sci-fi elements of, you know, faster than light travel and colonies literally rise.
Travel, yeah.
Yeah. The colonies, the idea that colonies rise and fall in the time that it takes for this ultra group to pass between colonies for starlight travel to move. I like the transhumanism ideas with both the ultras being biological upgraded life forms in essentially cyborgs or possibly biotics, I believe it is.
Okay.
But I think it's all gravy anyway. I like the cyberpunk aesthetic of Yellowstone. I kind of like the whole thing with the one character being sort of samurai-esque. I think that fitted the cyberpunk aesthetic. The shakuhachi kind of weirded me out because I'm pretty sure a shakuhachi is like a tiny little flute, whereas this thing is like the size of an oboe, so much so that you can use it as a weapon. So that kind of went, pretty sure they're not that big. I could be wrong, I've never actually seen one.
Maybe it's telescopic.
And the straw hats, you know, straight out of a ninja anime. I like the cultural ideas that different colonies have different cultural norms. I mean, I got to admit, I took one look at the word wedding gun and I was just thinking, Texas shotgun wedding. Injecting a piece of grey matter into your spouse. Injecting a piece of your own grey matter into your spouse so that their essence is
It's an interesting idea, an interesting concept. So, is there anything you disliked about it? Bearing in mind
that density of that. Yeah, the density of the first section.
I'm your density.
It was just, well, I've already made my case on that. It was just so difficult to punch through. I think I would have preferred it had that initial introduction section, that first third of the book hadn't been so heavy, because I think that's what put me off in the end. It just stopped me from getting to the point of the book where things were just starting to ramp up.
I think that's probably one of the negatives I shall say about this book. There are a lot of interesting ideas, interesting thoughts, also fleshed out. I didn't need to be there,
but this is the point.
To make it like, it just makes everything feel more claustrophobically dense.
Yes, exactly. Because I only got halfway into the book and all of this stuff that I can mention is fully explained. Yeah, and that, I think, is where I was hitting the density problem.
I think after certain points, just after halfway, it does sort of lighten up and sort of becomes a more linear story. Because then it's just about slotting things into place and like explaining, this means this. It's very more straightforward, and like all the characters together at that point, it becomes more of a through line and more of a general story.
But when you're trying to pack so much expositional,
there's less world building, and like political building and all sorts of stuff going on, and cultural building and. I mean, did you have any?
It was difficult to have nitpicks considering I've only got halfway through the book, so that's hard for me to pass comment on.
Right, I've got a few nitpicks which I'll just quickly go over. Volvoya, when she breaks the ship, like causes it to decelerate, to kill her first.
I want to say Nagorny.
Yeah, Nagorny.
It's definitely not pronounced like that.
Yeah, but that's how it's spelled.
Yes, pronunciation is going to be a problem.
To kill him, why didn't all the rats die and all the other, and like, was everything else tied down? All the like tools, all the stuff. The ship should have been in a mess, like everywhere. Especially like some parts are like flooded. They've got all sorts of stuff going around.
And she's one person working the entire ship.
Yeah, she can't clean up that much, and like even all the dead rat. But it doesn't mention that she has to clean up a lot of stuff, mostly just his body.
I mean,
maybe it's just, I don't know.
Perhaps she doesn't.
Because there's like a waterfall and stuff in
the
their little
section.
garden.
Oh,
no,
yeah.
they got where you meet the rest of the crew first. Also, Harry's just knocked out by like hit over the head. Like you can't knock out people like that. It's a Hollywood thing. The Hollywood. No, because if you knock someone out and they're out for more than a few seconds, because normally it takes a few
it's
seconds.
concussion.
Yeah,
and
if they're out for any longer, it's like a serious brain injury. You have to sort that out. You can't just knock people out. That's a minor thing. I've let that slide. She mentions she puts Carrie into the gunnery seat while she's asleep. But to do that, she would have to climb up some ladders and go through a little chute while carrying another person. I mean, maybe she's got like some service robots to help her, but it still doesn't.
Just this shit ton of rats just
Yeah.
forming into a group. It looks like the Enter Suicide Squad.
To go back to your samurai friend, Sayaki, when Sylvester sees him on the planet, he goes, I know that's him, I recognise his face. But he's had face surgery to resemble people of the colony so he can walk about in it. So he wouldn't recognise his face because his face is different. That's like a glaring error, and I can't find any way around that. Unless, it was all makeup he just brushed off before getting into the suit and flying over to him.
Either that or Sylvester's a massive racist and it's like every Ultra looks the same to him.
But even then, he doesn't look like an Ultra. He looks like someone from the colony.
That is fair, yeah.
That's the problem I had with it. Volvoya, instructions like paralyze the ship. Now, when she first does it, it takes out the shuttles. The second time she uses it,
I didn't get to that.
It doesn't paralyze the shuttle. She can use it. And also, the AI who's took over at that point, not the AI, the alien entity, he can't use the shuttles. He can't override it for some reason. Or he can't chase her down in another shuttle. Maybe he hasn't worked out yet, but he's worked out how to use the ship. He should be able to know how to use the shuttle.
He's been able to use the cash weapons.
Yes, so that's a little odd, because in the end, the captain uses one of the shuttles to go out and rescue her. So the ship has got control over at least some of the shuttles. Yeah, but those are my nitpicks. And we'll go on to recommendations. I'll start first, as I finish. This is my second time I've read it, so I would probably read again. I did like it. I liked it a bit less than the first time I read it. Maybe because the ideas weren't as new to me as before. And also it did feel more of a, I wouldn't say slog, but you do feel that density a lot more. I would recommend it. If you do like dense space operas, it's a thumbs up from me. I appreciate it. And I have read the second one. I would like to read the second one again, and probably the third one. And I would like to read more Alastair Reynolds stuff. That's my opinion, and now I'll pass it on to you.
I would like to finish it.
But would you? Would you really finish it? Or is it like, I would like to, but it's at the bottom of my to-do list?
Yes, that probably is where it falls. I would like to finish it because where I got to it, I think the story was going somewhere, but I'm not going to be under any obligation to do so, and so it's not going to fall too highly on my to-do list. I mean, depending on what we're reading next, if I suddenly find that, oh yeah, I've finished that, I've got time to go back and re-review that, maybe.
Would you read more from Alastair Reynolds?
I think it's unfair to judge him based on a single book.
Would you prefer to read a different book entirely that he's wrote, or the sequel to this?
I mean, honestly, it might be worthwhile going to having a look at the Doctor Who book that he's written. I might even go for one of the short stories that he's written just to see whether it's a common issue with the book, or whether I've just hit, as it being the first book in the series, whether it's just the density of this one has defeated me, and whether the rest of his stuff is different, or there's more narrative through line and there's not quite so much of the heavy world
There's
building.
a bit more pacing.
Yes, exactly. Like I say, I don't think I would be put off necessarily by just this book. I think, in all fairness, I was liking where it was going once I'd gotten past that original start point. It's just that this first out was just too heavy for me in that first instinct to get any further with it. I think I would have to go and look at some of the short stories or some of his other works to see whether he's a writer that I would want to continue to read. I'm not put off, but this hasn't been an ideal. This hasn't been an ideal start point for me to say whether I could recommend or not recommend his books. That's where I stand.
We'll leave it as that then.
Well, guys, thanks for watching. I don't know what we're doing next week.
Well, something nice and short. We'll be reading the first book in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy series. Really, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Oh boy,
Douglas Adams.
Yes.
Hopefully it's a nice, relaxing change of pace.
It should certainly be a relaxing change of pace compared to trying to dig through concrete with a spoon.
I liked it.
Like I say, you've already heard my views on it. I can't go fairer than that.
Thank you, and join us next week.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Vulva. God, keep calling her vulva. Volva.
Volvoya.
Volvoya. Volvoya. Volvoya. Pays. Oh, my God. Damn you, God. Volvoya.
Vol.
Volvoya.
Volvoya.
Volvoya.